I'm a really big Naruto fan. That's bottom line my favorite anime. And goddamn, Shikamaru is just so cool. Like he just doesn't like he's so laid back and oh man, like so growing up when I did like read comics and everything, one of my favorite superheroes was Spider-Man because he's smart. Like
Yeah.
he's not the most flashiest. Like the same thing with Shikamaru. He doesn't have the flashiest. His jutsu is top tier though, but the way
It's all
he
strategy.
wins,
Yeah, it's
yes,
all strategy, and it's knowing when to play your hand and when to retreat. Yeah, he's tough cookie to go against. He's definitely the guy you want in your corner if you're right. He's not the strongest, but he certainly knows how to assess the other side and know what his team is capable of,
Mhm.
and putting those talents to the perfect use at the perfect time.
Such a good best friend to Naruto too.
Yeah, and Choji.
Choji too. You um you almost came close to voicing Choji.
I did.
I remember. I
Well,
think
I
you said
auditioned
you.
for it. You'd
Mhm.
have to ask the producers how close I was. But they ended up going with me for Shikamaru, so
Okay.
I was happy about that too. I was happy
Okay.
to have a job, just period.
Mm. And to continue having a job because you're still even in the series in Boruto.
I know. Who would have thought? Like 15 years, 750 episodes. Now we're like I think 130 episodes in on Boruto.
Mm.
I mean, it's the gift that just keeps giving. So, and he's an interesting character. So fun to play. And apparently, there's in the book series in the manga, there's Shikamaru Adventures that's coming out. So maybe
Oh,
they'll animate that.
I'm hoping. I know they did a light novel for I think it was Shikamaru Shirun or something like that.
Yeah.
And they just showed how like it was a darker turn on Shikamaru. Like it showed I think it was between the Chunin exams. It was set in the Boruto universe
Yeah. Yeah.
and something else, but I know he had like he had a fight with like he didn't have a fight with the five Kages, but he almost killed like two of the Kages.
Yeah.
Just to make sure there was peace and just to make sure that Naruto could live his dream. And that would be so dope if they animated because we don't see a lot of like Shikamaru and Sasuke scenes like really
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
themselves.
That's true.
And one of those scenes, like he said to Sasuke, is like just to let him shine, I will dye myself as dark as I need to be. And Naruto's a lucky dude to have friends like that.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
he's earned it. He's gone through a lot. So,
Mm.
you know, it's, I mean, when you think of the fact that I sort of willed myself back to life because I didn't think he was capable of becoming Hokage by himself, you know, it's like, yeah, it's a pretty good friend. If I die now, this idiot will never be Hokage.
Pretty much true. Pretty much true. What is your favorite Shikamaru moment?
There's a lot. That battle with Hedon, you can't, it's full of all the right, you talk about being smart and playing it just the way you should play it, and then getting those great lines when he finally triumphs, and that's pretty good. And then of course um, I'm assuming here everybody's seen it, right? So I
Oh,
there's
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
spoiler
they
alert.
have to have
Yeah, the
games
tuning.
like
Well, starting with the tuning exams, that was another one where it was like he pulled this brilliant rabbit out of a hat, as it were. And then, of course, the death of Asuma was pretty emotional. So
So-
those are all great moments with Shikamaru. And our first mission when we tried to go say Sasuke, and I almost lost half the team. That was pretty intense too. So
Except for Choji. Choji, I think, was the only one who won his fight. Like without
yeah,
well,
any
he
help.
almost
no
he
help.
almost died doing it.
Mm.
He took the third pill or whatever, and used up all his chakra, and
Mm.
yeah, he got pretty hurt on that. So
How was it like filming that scene where Asuma died and then you go back home and you're with your father. I think his name is Shikaku or something like that. But he goes to you and embraces you and says, "Let it out," like because you were like holding all that in.
yeah, it's pretty intense. Sort of the neat thing about the way we do it with voiceover is that if you were in a movie, let's say, you would get the script and you'd work on the script and you'd memorize your lines and you'd figure out all the beats and what, you know, what you're doing in the film and all that kind of stuff. And then you go to the process of shooting it and rehearsing it and then doing it. What we don't have any of that. You show up on the day and here's your script and you kind of go through it line by line, word by word, and you're experiencing it in real time with the character. Like I'm finding out the information as Shikamaru is finding out the information. And so it's like, oh no, this is not good. You know, this is getting worse. Are they gonna really kill, you know, Asuma? Is Asuma really gonna die? This can't be right, right? And so you go through the things that a person would, right? Sort of the 5 stages of death, right? Denial, bargaining, and it's all happening in the script. And it's great because you're living it in sort of real time. And it's a great way to, so what you get on tape, what you end up, the final performance is sort of me living it as it's happening. So, you know, sometimes I suppose that can go bad and you have to go back and go, no, you should have probably done this instead of that. But for the most part, I think the skill that you need as a voice actor, and I've got a lot of experience in improv, so that's a lot of my background, a lot of comedy, but improv, being able to kind of roll with the punches, just grab an emotion and go. And that I think is a benefit to a lot of us that have to do this kind of work, because it's basically what they would call a cold read in the industry. You know, like that's what an audition is. It's a cold read. You never saw the script before. You walk into the room, they say, here's the script. We'll give you a couple minutes, go over it, read it, and then give us a shot. And then that's your audition. Now, after that, like in a regular film or something, they'd be like, that was a good starting point. Now let's build on that. Let's really flesh that out, you know, that kind of thing. And, but not when you're doing this kind of work. You get your shot at it, and you know, it either is good or it's not good, and they have to go back and go do it again and do it again. But I think the people that are successful in this can kind of hit that note right out of the gate. And everybody in our cast, I think, is really exceptional actors, like really strong actors, and they have really strong impulses and instincts. And that's what it takes to do this kind of work. And then the other factor that I don't think a lot of people take into consideration is, because we're doing a dubbed version of an anime, which was originally done in Japan, you have to make it fit. You know, if I would read a line and I'd go, well, I might pause or I might take a little more time on that. No. That's not how, you know, you only have 2.5 seconds to say this line and you have to make it fit. So now you have to do this very sort of skill, this craft of technical making it work. And then you have to, on top of that, you have to have the acting part of it, which is, you know, is it coming from the right place? Is it emotional? Is it appropriate for the scene? Is this what Shikamaru would do? And then you add the voice, which if you can tell, it's not my normal speaking voice. Shikamaru is a little lower and he's back here, you know, and he's got kind of a rasp to his voice. And so you have to make that all work at the same time, while taking into consideration that it can only last 2.5 seconds or whatever the length of the original line was. So you can't fudge and then take a pause or take a moment. But if you're doing original animation, you can, because what they'll do is you can act your heart out and then they'll just animate around that. You know, you have the script, which is, you know, somebody wrote it and that's what you're supposed to do. And you can even sometimes get away with making some small changes if you think something's appropriate, but they'll animate whatever you act will be the performance. It's a lot easier when you think about it. You know, yeah. So we have to do the acting and then we have to be craftsmen at it. And actually in the original, in the early days when I first started doing voiceover back in like 2000, 2001, when I did Shinzo and Digimon, things like that, the technology wasn't as strong as it is today. So you would literally have to make it fit. So they would say, you have 2 seconds, you have to say this line. You would do it in 2 seconds or you do 1.9 and they go, it's gotta be a little longer. Or you do it, you know, 2.2, it's got to be a little shorter. And so you would take 30 takes or whatever to get it to fit just right and fine. And it's it's work. It's like trying to hack it away and get it in there. And basically that was sort of the test. If you could do that, they would keep you. If you took too long, they wouldn't waste their time. They'd find people that could have that skill and could do it. And so, like when I got my first job, I remember they said they hired me for 3 episodes on a show called Shinzo. That was one of my first jobs. And, you know, if it worked out, they'd keep me for the whole series. And I was the lead. And so I was like, oh boy. And and we had to do, I think it was 30 loops an hour, which is 30 lines. And you know, went through the first 3 episodes. I didn't hear anything. And then they called me for the 4th and the 5th. And I'm like, I guess I have the job, you know? So, because otherwise, if you just took too much time, they were just going to replace you. That was it. So they didn't want to waste a lot of time. And I remember a lot of those early auditions I would get, they'd say, well, do you have any experience doing dubbing work or, you know, the replacement voice kind of thing? And I would say, well, no, but I've done some voiceover stuff and I've done some, you know, a lot of acting, a lot of legitimate acting. And they'd be like, yeah, this is a very specific skill. So if you don't have it, you know, we can't just give it to you. The big thing I ever really auditioned for was Digimon the movie. And they didn't take me because in my audition, they loved me and they thought I was great. But when they asked me the question, do you have any experience doing dub? I said, no. And they said, well, we can't, this movie's, you know, we're recording it in a very short period of time and we have to get this out. So we really need people that have had that experience. We can't take the chance. However, what they did do was we like your voice, so we'd like to put you in some other things. And so that's how I got a couple Digimon episodes. And then from that, I got Shinzo. And then so it was like, and that was at Saban Entertainment. And so I just started to move up and to kind of gain that skill. And I had a guy by the name of Michael Sorich, who's done some Naruto stuff too. He's like a director actor in town. And he really took me under his wing and said, this is what we got to do to get you up to speed. And he kind of showed me the ropes and took the time with me, because I'm sure it's very frustrating when you're just trying to get a job done to then just have a newbie come in, and not everybody can do this kind of work, you know? So it was great to have somebody like Michael who really, you know, took me under his wing. Today, now that all kind of changed, and this is what I was going back to from before, is today they have this thing called Pro Tools. So you can lay down your line. They'll give you a couple shots to kind of get it. And I'll tell you, since I've got this crutch of Pro Tools, I've gotten super lazy, and that's not a good, that's on me. I feel bad, but it's, you can lay down the line, and if it's just a little too long, they can move it a frame this way or move it a frame that way. They can make sure it starts on time. They can condense it. They can expand it. There's a little bit you can do. If they do it too much, it sounds weird. So if it's like, nah, we can't stretch it that far, it's gonna sound like it's been augmented, it's been changed. So then they'll have you, we need to add words, or we need to have you really slow down that line, still keeping the intensity of the scene and everything else. And so there's a little bit of futzing around there, but now it happens more on the side of the engineer than the actor. And I'm sure engineers just love actors that can hit it the first time, every time, but it's not because they don't have to do as much work, right? So it's more on them now than it is on us. And which then kind of opens it up to a lot of actors who may not be good at the actual craftsmanship of dubbing, but they can do voices and they can do characters. So you can get a lot of people that would never have been able to keep up that pace, get in there and do it, because now they have Pro Tools. So
Pro Tools literally turned you to the real life Shikamaru.
yeah, well, it took me, so I did it the old school way, and I figured it out how to do it and survive doing the old school way. And then they gave me Pro Tools, and it was like, oh, now I don't have to work at it anymore. You know? So I'm sure there's directors that go, yeah, it'd be nice if he hit it on the first try. but now I focus more. For me, I kind of say that jokingly, but for me, it allows me to then focus more on the emotion of the scene and not be so worried about like, I got to get this in 7.5 seconds or 8 seconds or whatever it is. So, which is nice because they can kind of, you know, if there's a hitch in the line, they can kind of scoot things over and make it fit, and so that the flaps look like right. And if you ever watch it, it's funny because if you ever watch it in the original Japanese, they don't seem to match up the mouth too much. They don't care. You know what I mean? Like they get close and you'll notice that there's this, or they do this thing like Dragon Ball Z where there's all this stuff happening when nobody's talking because it's happening in like their thought bubbles, you know? So you'll see static scenes of two people fighting, and then you'll hear this guy going, I think I've got him.
The little self monologues.
Yeah, right. I think these little monologues, because you have to kind of explain what's going on, and they only give you a little bit of flat. So then they just have it make it more like this is what the character's thinking. You know, that's a little sort of a cheat there. But in Japan, they're not as concerned with the mouth flaps as we are in the United States. We're like obsessive compulsive about making it fit. And I think that's a good thing. Sometimes it can really be a drag. It can be a drag. Whatever.
Oh my God.
Make it fit. Oh man. So but yeah, so anyway, that's the technical side of things.